So when we were going to be headed out on our trip, of course, I wanted to see if I could find a quilt store in the area, and we found Kathy's Old Town Fabrics in Reedsport, which is really close to the lighthouse. I looked online. There wasn't a website, but there is a Facebook page, and it showed, like you see here, lots of fabric on hangers. And somebody said something about not getting fabric cut, and I thought that was odd. Well, basically, this is like a co-op place, one of those that has booth space available for people. So you have kind of a conglomerate of little shops all together. And this is just really, really, really large booth space to make a quilt store. And so quilt fabric is cut up and on the hangers, and there are 1 yard cuts and half-yard cuts and 2-yard cuts, I believe. There's also some fat quarters. There are a few quilt books. There is some notions and some buttons. I was really kind of hoping to find a project kit that I could work on. Didn't really find anything like that. But it's a sort of place. It's not a traditional quilt store by any stretch of the imagination. But if I was working on a project in that area and I needed a piece of fabric, I would certainly come down here to look. And I would just come down and look if I was in the area again anyway. It's just kind of fun and different. It is nice to know what to expect. I wish I had been a little more aware of it. These are the fabrics I chose. I did actually have some other fabrics I liked better, but they was only the 1 yard cut. And since I can't get fabric cut, I chose to leave those behind and got these.
So I have 2 very old projects with me. The first one is a little kit. This is little bits of wool. This is something I'd wanted to try, and I was concerned because it was expensive, and my sister-in-law suggested that I find a kit to see if I liked it first, which was a great idea. So I bought it because we were getting ready to travel somewhere, and then I think I forgot to take it with me. So I never did the kit, and then at some point I couldn't find it, and I came across it recently, so that's something I'm going to want to do. So I have my pieces I have one under, it calls for steam seam, cut out, and I'm getting ready to fuse those on. Now, the one thing I do remember that I thought was funny is I'd always heard that wool applique was so much easier and so much better because the pieces didn't fray. So I've been always surprised when the first thing it tells you to do is to put fusible on it so that it doesn't fray. I've always found that incomprehensible. So if anybody there knows more than I do, I've only done one other thing that I've actually used wool. I'd love to know if you know why we use it. We use fusible with it when it's not supposed to fray. That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, last little bit of fusing. And I think that's all done. Now I have to cut out the pieces and put them on the little background fabric, and then I can start stitching. Okay, so now I have all of the pieces cut out. There's my little bit of leftovers. And here's my background piece. I'm going to press that, and then I'm going to fuse them on. And a little project that I had started at the beach, this little kit, I just worked on it, just, little bits here and there, and so I never felt like it was worth taking the camera out, and then I realized I pretty much just got it finished. I didn't do it exactly the same way in the kit. They have you do an envelope turn basically, and then you stitch the edges, and I thought I wanted a border on it, so I just put a simple little border on it, did the same thing, an envelope finish on it, so I turned it inside out, stitched up the edge, and then I did a little stitching to kind of give it the look of binding around, and I did stitch in the ditch right around that. So that's what the back looks like. I was too lazy to make a label, so I just put my name and stuff down there. But there's that one's actually finished, and I have it hanging
on my wall in my kitchen now. So that's kind of fun to have something that I've had forever and ever and just have it done. And I did really enjoy working on it. This is another quilt that is something I've had done. It's old. Not nearly as old as the other ones. This is a mystery quilt that was on Craftsy that my sister-in-law and I did together. It's a Kimberly Einmo mystery quilt. And I picked the fabric. I always seem to pick my favorite fabrics for some of these things. I think they're really pretty colors. But this is actually the quilt, I think it was probably the sixth or seventh mystery quilt I've ever done. And it was, as I was almost done with this one, I suddenly went, I don't like mystery quilts. There's always something about them I don't like. So this one, I actually did the blocks and then I stopped. And when I started trying to take care of getting pieces taken care of, or getting stuff cleaned up and moving things out that I wasn't going to keep, I looked at this one and I thought, oh, it's so pretty, but I don't really want to finish it because I just don't love it. As for something I'm going to put in my house or anything, I would do it different if I, knew how the fabric was going to come out. So I decided I would do it as a charity quilt. So I finished putting the top together. So this is the top. And then I realized, I'm going to have to add more if I'm going to make it big enough. And then I suddenly realized I have a niece who's having a baby. And this is the sort of quilt she would love. So I've got it all pinned and I am going to be making this for a baby quilt for my new grandnephew. And I'm very excited about that. And I'm hoping that she will love it. And this should come out after we get there and give her the baby quilt. So this should be safe to show. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Quick little update on the baby quilt. I did some quilting. I watched Pat Sloan's videos on I Love to Make Quilts, and she does a wave stitch, which you can see coming down. Very simple to do. It's a stitch my machine has on it, and I just followed the lines. I didn't even put a walking foot on this, so I just stitched top to bottom. I wasn't sure if my thread was going to last because I'm using a spool of thread I had and I don't have any more. So I did the middle, and then I did like every 8 inches, and then I did every 4 inches, and then I did every 2 inches. So so far it's looking pretty good, I think, and I think all I need to do now is stitch the edges and figure out what I'm going to do for binding, because I just realized I didn't decide about that. Need to do that. So the next chunk that I want to work on is these stars right here. I'm going to add some extra so that they go back and forth like that. Things have been rather crazy around here, and we're getting ready to go on another trip. I'm so excited. So these are the pieces that I'm thinking about doing there. I think I'm just going to do some squares and then put some of the sashing strips. So I just have to pick some squares. I just kind of sorted out either colors that I'm not going to use or that were right close there. And these are more like, these are my options. So I'm going to cut some squares and then stitch them together, and I'll be back. Okay, so far got some squares cut out, got some sashing strips. I'm going to put those together with the stars and then put some sashing strips in between them, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, now I just want to do strip over here, and then I think we're good on that one for now. Okay, that little section is done, and that is all that I have done so far. I hope to get back to it again soon, but at least I have made some progress.